In this video, we're going to show you to replace the driver's side rear brake caliper on your Ford Explorer. It's located right here on your brake system. The process for the driver's side is the same as the passenger side. Locate the notch on the top of the wheel here behind your center cap. Use your pry tool. Gently pry outward and remove your center cap. Using your 19mm socket, go ahead and loosen and remove the nuts. Go ahead and grab that wheel. Remove it from the vehicle and set it aside. Remove these two 10mm bolts on your brake caliper. We're going to use our socket and ratchet. We're going to go ahead and pull our brake caliper off here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver and go between the pad here and the rotor. I'm just going to try and compress that piston in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and work that caliper off. And set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and throw on one of the lug nuts here just to hold the brake rotor in place. Now I'm just going to bottom out that lug nut so that'll help us with the alignment of our brake caliper. Now you have your stainless steel sliders here. I'm going to go ahead and use my hammer and just going to tap these off here. Inspect these here, make sure they're in good condition. We're going to do the same for the top. We're going to use our bristle brush and just clean up the surface right there of where those sliders are going to go. Make sure there's no scaly rust on there. Ours is pretty clean. But if you do, you might get to the point where you want to use a file and just kind of clean up any of the heavy rust. Once you have that cleaned up, just use a thin coat of grease right there on both sides here. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall our sliders. Tap those down into place. Do the same for the upper. Just give those a wipe down. And on our replacement caliper unit here, I want to go ahead and separate our boot from our slider here. So I'm going to push on that slider. Work that boot. I'm going to go ahead and push this out. And do the same on the other one. I'm using the back side of my pick. We're not using the pointed side, so we don't want to tear that boot. What we're going to do is we're going to apply some grease on the inside here. Not a lot. We do want to make sure that that has some grease inside there. It's going to help our slider pins stay active. Go ahead and slide that through. And basically you're just going to lock the rubber boot onto your slider pins there. And that's what you want. Nice and smooth. I'm going to remove my bolt here, and it should have two copper washers on there. This is what they call a banjo bolt. Just going to install our brake pads here. Now when installing your pads, on the bottom side you want to make sure that the C part of the pad is on the bottom, and then the tab is on the top, and match that up to your outboard brake pad. Make sure that the pad is seated in the caliper. And once you have the lower pads onto your slider here, go ahead and push this in. Make sure that your sliders out here are pushed out far enough where you can slide the caliper into place. Go ahead and install your bolts. I want to get these started by hand first. And once those are started, we can now go ahead and snug them down. And on the back side of your caliper, there's going to be a 14mm bolt here going through, holding the line to the piston. You want to have some towels or a catch can or something underneath because brake fluid is going to come out of this. You want to inspect this here, make sure that the surface is flat and that there is not a washer on either side. Take the new banjo bolt, put a copper washer on it. Slide that through, put a copper washer on the other side, and go ahead and install this onto the back side. Go ahead and get that bolt started. I'm going to use my 14mm gear wrench. I'm going to go ahead and snug this down. Go ahead and wipe down any residual brake fluid that might have come out of that line, in and around the caliper. Torque down our caliper bolts to 20 foot-pounds. And tighten down our flex hose bolt to 25 foot-pounds. On the back side of your caliper, there's going to be this little rubber cap. Go ahead and pop that off. And there's a bleeder screw right here. Let's go ahead and use our 10mm. We're going to loosen that bleeder, open that up. And you want to wait for the brake fluid to come through the line, fill up behind the piston, and then start to come out here. Now that we have fluid coming out, let's go ahead and tighten this up. You just want to snug that down. You don't want to make it super, super tight. Go ahead and wipe down any of the residual brake fluid that came out. Put your rubber cap back on. At this point here, you want to go ahead and hop into the vehicle, pump up the brakes, make sure that this fluid fills up all the way here and compresses up those brake pads. At that point there, you can go ahead and install your wheel. Go for a road test. If the brake pedal feels soft, you want to come back and you want to start your brake bleeding process. If the pedal feels good and you're braking fine, you're good to go. Remove the lug nut. Go ahead, grab your wheel. Get that installed. Get our lug nuts put on. I'm going to start these all by hand, get them started a few threads. Once all of these are on, we're going to go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and torque down our driver's side rear wheel here to 100 foot-pounds. And go ahead and install your center cap. You're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.